Alright, part 2 is here. Let's get it, let's go. Story-wise, this is a pretty solid video, I'm gonna be honest. It does exactly what it needs to. It sets the tone in the beginning, and it doesn't waste your time. I've mentioned this in other videos before, but wasting time is a very egotistical thing to do because it means that you think that you deserve more of someone else's time that they're not gonna get back. So I'm really grateful that you understand this at only 33 subscribers. Animation-wise, mainly in the small fight during the ringtone incident, I would just work on the easing in and out, and I would try to just not have my lighting just take up, the whole set. You need to make it more dynamic, since otherwise it feels like it's losing contrast. I don't know if you get what I mean, but if you don't, I would just look for a tutorial on how to get better lighting, and then you should be set to go. I'm not trying to say that your lighting is bad, but I'm just saying it's too default. A lot of other people get this kind of lighting, so switching it up will make you stand out. But to begin this long form review, this is definitely the best way to start with an actually solid full video. 7 out of 10. Something you could work on more is definitely the set design, since it's basically just base plates in the background. To add more life, maybe you can add some paper cutouts of like plants and then maybe clouds. And I know that's such a small thing to add, but it definitely adds way more to the video just by it being subtle. It makes whatever you made feel like it took way more effort. And same thing goes with how many things you're animating at the same time. I usually see at most 2 things, and it would be way cooler if, let's say, when the cars are driving and one like gets shot, they don't all freeze. Some of them still continue even if it's slow. Same when you had a car, I think it was a tank, I forgot, move while the fire was still moving. And I know that takes extra effort, but you should have done that for the entire video. For the smaller stuff in this video, it is framed properly, but when it gets to the larger objects, especially that with that enemy tank, you would be better off zooming out. Something else that would make your animation more dynamic is having the camera slightly pan when the cars are moving together. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just like the stuff in the background I mentioned, if you add that, it makes it feel like you did triple the effort. But just like the video before, I give this a 7 out of 10. This means you have a lot of things to improve on, but you're also a channel with only 2 subscribers, so that means you still have a lot of space that I don't even know how much you can improve on. The potential is crazy. Watch the person I review right after so you know exactly what I mean. Alright, so this guy, he has a very raw feeling for his animation, which other people don't do, and I really like that he went all out with this. The camera is shaky, the camera is tilted, but it makes it feel very raw. It makes you feel like you're right in there, and for all you know, he could be skipping frames and not filming some of them, but it will still feel like he's moving and putting the extra effort because that camera is shaking in a natural amount. And at the same time, you see a lot of people blasting in the background all together in different times in the same sequence though, and it adds to the dynamic of the video. So even if he, let's say he figured out a way to do it super easily, it looks like it took him 10 times more effort than if he did it with different angles from people doing it individually. And that probably would have taken longer, since there would have been more movements with more care for each one of them, for each one of the guys, and more times where he would have needed to move the camera. But even though he did it all together, and that would have had a built-in shortcut for all of that, it still feels like it took like 10 times more effort, even though it's probably only 2 times more effort. And it's subtle things like that that make a video feel so much bigger. The gore effects he adds, that's extra, and I don't expect you to copy that, but everything I said prior is something that you could actually get to the level of in a month. But stuff that he should work on more is definitely trying to get a macro lens. That's honestly it. That's why I want to give him a 9 out of 10. I spoke in a different perspective for him. It was for the sake for you to get better. Alright, for you, it's a completely different thing. First off, I really like how you have the camera track where the lasers are going. What would have made this video better overall is that if you enhanced that and you basically made that a big thing of this video, where let's say everything is in slow motion and you're just slowly watching the lasers go through and seeing what they do. And if you're filming on, let's say, an iPhone, you can just flip the phone the other way, and I don't know why a lot of people just don't do this, but it just lets you get lower angles, and I recommend that for you if you have one though. Pretty much it just works for any phone that has cameras on the corners. That's what I do to get really low angles. Also, every now and then the camera's just not in the right place, and I don't mean like it's looking crazy far away. I just mean that someone's walking out of the camera, and sometimes you just don't fix it, or when you do, they're still somewhat out. Even though you could probably add basically any song for this video, it really fit the song that you chose. And I mentioned this in my videos a lot, especially in my very own. You can actually see it as that music is a very big part of a video, especially because the runtime of a video is closer to a music video, so the music that you choose kind of makes your video into a music video, because you have to have it for a bigger portion of the video than it would have been if it was like a longer video or like a movie. So when you make a brick film, the music choice is very, very important, and I like that you chose something that actually fits. And not only that, but it enhances the emotions for the video. And this would also be so much better if you had people overlapping their movements. For example, if someone was moving, I noticed that you just have other people not move, or they just don't do anything. But even if they were off screen, me personally, I would still make them have some kind of effect, like the lasers going through. That just makes the video more dynamic. But this is still really solid. 7 out of 10. The voice acting was great here. However, the video in it of itself, like the structure of it all, just felt really lazy. Even though I believe this was a part 1, nothing happened anyways. There's nothing that happens that would lead up to something else, and the majority of the video is basically just 1 frame. At most, it's 10. And I give you credit for the voice acting, but that cannot make up for a video basically having nothing happening in it. And you can't really give this blame to something like the not having enough resources, because this is more of a storytelling thing on you. And I'm not going to critique stuff like the set design, because for a comedy video, this is all you need, really. But I'm sorry, I can't give this any higher than a 3 out of 10. I reviewed the first video, so it only makes sense for me to review the part 2. Alright, first off, I like the colors in this one as well. They're different, but they also keep the same style. And this one, I really like that the set designs are way more minimal, especially in the beginning, since it makes everything really easy on the eyes. And that's usually an issue with the videos with high saturation, is that when there's a lot of stuff going on, it just looks very busy and it's like rough on the eyes. And the filters you use for the color grading really make it not look like it's a brain rot video, which can also be a style that you see a lot when a video is highly saturated, especially with the Lego video. Like I mentioned in the short version of this review, I really like the voice acting. The issue is that they just sound like they're in a highly echoey place. I would like to get them closer to the microphone. And getting high quality sound is actually really easy. I'm literally walking back and forth in my room recording this on my phone. The framing also was perfect for the aspect ratio. Nothing looked wrong, and the animation, especially for the arrows, was outstanding. And even on some parts, you could see the facial movements changed. I believe you did that in the original video. I do not remember though, but it's done in the right times and it always looks great. You don't overdo it, so it's not expected of you. So when you do it, it feels way more impactful. Also, that I mentioned the video is perfectly paced, unlike the other one where it just felt very rushed, like it was only the first scene. That could have just been added here and it would have felt perfect, because this video is perfectly paced and nothing feels like it's rushed, and nothing ever feels like it's dragging. This is generally such an improvement from the original part. Easily a 10 out of 10. A square aspect ratio for a video is not rare, but it's definitely uncommon. What is rare though is that it really seems like you thought about your aspect ratio before you filmed, because a lot of people I see switch their aspect ratio for their video and it just does not match. Sometimes there's just not enough like headroom, and you can always tell. However, when I see this video, it never feels like someone is too far away from the camera or too close, or they're just cropped out. It always feels like you thought about the aspect ratio, so everyone's always where they should be, so the video always looks really nice. This really helps when Magneto, I believe, is up there and smacking people out of his way. It never feels like anything's off camera. Everything just feels like it's exactly where it should be. And I'm not trying to glaze, but this is such a rare thing to see when the camera work is just perfect. The same thing goes for your animation. It's also really decent. Also, I love that everyone actually did something. I've seen a lot of battles where they have a lot of people in a battle, right? And the thing is that it just always feels like some people are being left out and more focus is on other people. Here, it really feels like the X-Men is a team and they're all helping out each other. Also, the mastering of the audio is very well done. You can hear the music, you can hear the sound effects, but it never feels like it's overpowering the voice acting. So much happens in 1 minute, but in the same time, it doesn't feel rushed, and it definitely does not feel dragged. Every second counts, and every second of it works. When I say easily, I really mean easily a 10 out of 10.
Do you guys even know what day it is today?
Honestly, this video was really solid. Even though this video was almost 20 minutes long, you did this thing where basically like every other 2 scenes there's a fight scene, but the thing is that every fight scene is very unique compared to the other one prior. So it always feels like you're seeing something new, and it really stops the feeling from it dragging to occur, which is really important, because that's another thing that can happen from having a lot of fight scenes, which is that they all just feel like a chore, which makes what you're doing here by adding crazy elements. Like for example, in the ending of the video, there was like Alfred fighting, and in the beginning, or I believe it's more in the middle, they were like going across your own home, driving around, and literally right before that we had 2 Batmans fighting 2 Jokers. There's always something new happening, and that's a great thing to add in a video to keep things spiced up. But if there's any real criticism here that I would tell you, is that you need to lower the volume of the music, because there's some parts where it's just very hard to hear what the people are trying to say. Of course, that doesn't really bother me with the characters that speak in subtitles, but it definitely is an issue with the characters that, you know, speak with actual words. But you generally surprised me with the video not dragging much. But if I were you, I would try to simplify and cut down the runtime for the beginning of the video, and that would give you something higher than an 8.5 out of 10, which is not a bad score at all. That's actually really, really good. There's still plenty of things you can improve on, but wow, it was such an entertaining video. I'll give you that. I recommend everyone here to watch it. What you need to work on here is definitely the framing, because the majority of this video just takes place in one side of the screen and is mainly in the bottom corner, and because of which you're really just wasting the rest of the space that you really only use twice. And then the second time you could have cut that out, because they were basically walking when the camera should have cut. And yeah, I have watched the second part for this video and I have seen that you improved on it, but this is still the one I was told to the review, so I'm still reviewing it over that. But outside of that criticism, the only thing I would work on more is that the walking cycle has a katana guy waddling too much forward and backwards, and that's literally it. This video I say is a solid solid 7 out of 10. Its sequel gets better, but for this video alone, it's the only fair rating. Switching from live action to stop motion is a creative idea, however, sometimes, especially when no one's speaking, having it stay in live action it kind of feels like it's dragging sometimes. I am fine with the minimal editing and sometimes not having sound effects at all, because with the music, it just really sets a very comedic tone, and together, honestly, it works. I do, however, feel like you can continue to improve on your animation though, since the easing in and out isn't always there, and sometimes it works to not have it and having characters rush, especially when the guy got shot and he just fell down super fast. That did work, especially with no sound effects. I really like that part. But for other parts, having them just rush in their movements, it just does not work. And what I meant about the easing in and out, it also works with the audio. Some parts having some sound effects missing works, but mainly in the invincible part in the ending of the video, it would have made more sense to have sound effects since it would have matched the tone better. And otherwise, it just feels very empty. But all in all, yeah, it's a solid 7.5 out of 10. It's a solid video, but the small things are adding up and they pull you back. Okay, I'm gonna end the video here because especially with school right now, since it's about to end, schoolwork and all has been slowing me down with videos, but I already decided who to have for the next reviews. So if I told you you were gonna be in a review and you didn't see yourself here, it means you're gonna be in the next one. But for now, like and subscribe, share, and see you guys next time.